Russ, Ironside, Dillard had been crossing the Clinch River Bridge on Route 25E outside Bean Station, Tennessee, every Thursday for 3 years. It was the fastest route between his shop in Morristown and the steel supplier in Kingsport, and by now, the bridge was just another piece of road between 2 points, 45 seconds of cracked concrete and rusted guardrails over brown water that he barely noticed. He was 47 years old, 6'2", 280 pounds, built like a man who'd been bending metal his whole life and had eventually started to resemble the material. Broad, thick, slightly warped at the edges, but structurally sound. His beard was dark brown with silver running through the sides, full, hanging just below his collarbone, and he wore it loose because the one time he'd tried braiding it, his daughter had told him he looked like a pirate at a Renaissance fair, and he'd never tried again. His forearms were sleeved in ink. His left arm carried a detailed blacksmith's forge with tongs and a hammer surrounded by sparks, a tribute to his grandfather, who'd run a farrier shop in Hamblen County until 1987. His right arm was a full sleeve of iron and steel imagery, railroad spikes, chain links, a detailed cross made of welded rebar. His knuckles were tattooed with block letters, bend on the left, hold on the right, the two things you do to metal and the two things metal does to you. He wore a black leather vest with the Cumberland Forge MC center patch, a glowing horseshoe on a dark anvil, his secretary diamond, and a small wrench pin above his left pocket that doubled as a bottle opener and had been used for both purposes more times than he could count. Subscribe to Asphalt Angels and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because this story starts with a kid under a bridge, a dog with a collar, and a trash bag that held everything a child owned. Russ ran Dillard Ironworks out of Morristown, a custom fabrication shop that built everything from ornamental gates to industrial conveyor frames, the kind of shop where the air tasted like grinding dust, and the floor was covered in steel shavings, and every surface had at least one burn mark. He'd been a welder since he was 17, learned on a stick welder in his grandfather's farrier shop, moved to MIG at a trailer factory in Jefferson City, then TIG at a nuclear fuel fabrication plant in Irwin, where the welds had to be X-ray perfect because the material inside the pipes would kill you if the joints failed. He'd left the nuclear plant in 2015 after his back started talking to him the way backs talk to welders, in low, constant pain that gets louder when you bend and never fully shuts up when you stand. He'd opened the shop, hired 3 guys, and spent the last 10 years making things that held weight and took pressure and didn't break when you needed them not to. It was a Thursday in early November, 2:30 in the afternoon, overcast, 41 degrees, the kind of East Tennessee November day where the sky is a flat sheet of aluminum and the mountains look like they've been cut out of gray paper and pasted against it. Russ was on his 2015 road glide, heading north toward Kingsport, and he was approaching the Clinch River Bridge when he saw something under it that made his hands close tighter on the grips. There was a shape under the bridge, not on the road. Below it, on the bank where the concrete pylons meet the mud and the river birch grows sideways out of the slope. A shape that was too small to be an adult, and too still to be an animal, and too deliberate to be debris. He passed over the bridge at 55 miles per hour, and the shape was in his mirror for 2 seconds, and then it was gone, and Russ rode another quarter mile before the welder's brain caught up to the highway brain and said, "That was a child." He pulled a U-turn at the next turnaround, came back south, took the dirt access road that ran down the east bank of the Clinch to the gravel flat beneath the bridge, the kind of spot that fishermen use in the summer and nobody uses the rest of the year, a patch of mud and river rock and beer cans, and the particular kind of loneliness that exists in places people only go when they don't want to be found. He killed the engine. He could hear the river, low, steady, the November current running slow over limestone. He could hear the traffic on the bridge above, the rhythmic thump-thump of tires crossing the expansion joints, and he could see the kid, a boy, maybe 8 years old, sitting on a concrete pylon base under the bridge with his back against the column, his knees pulled up, and both arms wrapped around a dog, a medium-sized mutt, brown and white, some kind of beagle hound mix with floppy ears and a tail that was curled against the boy's leg. The boy was wearing a flannel shirt that was too big for him, men's medium, sleeves rolled up past his wrists, and jeans that were muddy at the knees and cuffs. His shoes were wet. His hair was brown and uncombed and had a leaf stuck in it near the temple. Beside him on the ground was a black trash bag, knotted at the top, bulging with shapes that could have been clothes or blankets or both. The dog saw Russ first. Its ears lifted. Its tail thumped once against the boy's thigh. It didn't bark. It just watched with the alert, assessing eyes of a dog that had learned to evaluate people before reacting to them. The boy looked up. He didn't startle. He didn't run. He looked at Russ the way you look at weather, something that's coming whether you want it to or not, something you assess for threat and then adjust to. Russ stood by his bike. He didn't approach. He'd spent 30 years reading metal, understanding when a weld was about to crack, when a beam was under too much load, when a joint needed more heat and when it needed less. He read people the same way. This boy was a cold joint, insufficient heat, insufficient fusion, a connection that looked solid on the surface but would fail under pressure. You don't hammer a cold joint. You add heat slowly. "That's a good-looking dog," Russ said. The boy didn't respond. The dog's tail thumped again. "What kind is he?" Silence. Then, "She." "She? What kind is she?" "I don't know. She's mine, though." If this story has touched your heart, share it and subscribe to Asphalt Angels, because a boy under a bridge held on to two things when he ran, a dog and a trash bag. The trash bag had his clothes. The dog had a collar, and the collar is where this story turns. What's her name? Biscuit. Biscuit. That's a solid name. She got a collar? The boy looked at Russ for a long time. Then he moved his hand, slowly, deliberately, and turned the dog's collar so the tag faced outward. It was a metal tag, the kind you get engraved at a pet store. Russ couldn't read it from 20 feet away. "There's a number on it," the boy said. "It's my grandma's number. Biscuit used to be my grandma's dog. My grandma gave her to me when she got sick. The number's still on the tag." Russ looked at the boy. He looked at the dog. He looked at the collar. "You want me to call that number?" The boy's eyes filled. He didn't blink. He didn't wipe them. He let the tears sit there, and he held the dog tighter, and he said, "He won't let me call her. He took my mom's phone. He took mine. He said if I call Grandma, he'll get rid of Biscuit. So I left. I took Biscuit, and I left." And here was the moment, the fork. The welder's brain was running analysis. A boy under a bridge with a dog and a trash bag. The trash bag meant planning. He'd packed before he left. The dog meant priority. He'd chosen to bring the animal even though it made running harder. The collar with the grandmother's number meant the boy had been thinking about this for a while. The number was his lifeline, but he couldn't use it while he was in the house, so he'd left the house and brought the number with him, attached to the one thing nobody would think to check. But what if this was a kid who'd had a fight with his stepdad and was being dramatic? What if "he won't let me call" meant parental screen time rules? What if the grandma's number on the collar was just a coincidence, an old tag nobody had updated? Russ looked at the flannel shirt, men's medium on an 8-year-old, the muddy shoes, the trash bag, the leaf in the hair that had been there long enough to dry, the dog that didn't bark at strangers because she'd learned that barking caused problems. "How long have you been out here?" "Since last night. I walked from the house. It's up that way." He pointed east, up the ridge toward the county road that wound through the hills above the river. It took a long time because Biscuit's legs are short. "You been out here all night?" "Under the bridge. It didn't rain. Biscuit kept me warm." Russ sat down on a river rock 15 feet from the boy. Not close, not far. The distance of a man who understands working temperature, close enough to transfer heat, far enough not to cause distortion. "I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do exactly that and nothing else. I'm going to call the number on Biscuit's collar. I'm going to tell your grandma where you are, and I'm going to sit right here until she comes, or until someone she trusts comes. I'm not going to touch you, I'm not going to move your dog, and I'm not going to leave. Is that okay?" The boy looked at him. 8 years old. One night under a bridge, a trash bag of clothes, and a dog with a phone number on her collar. "What if she can't come? She's sick. She's in a wheelchair." "Then she'll send someone. Grandmas always know someone to send." If you're watching this Asphalt Angel story, hit that hype button right now. It's free, takes 1 second, and helps this reach more people. Now back to the story. Russ pulled his phone out. He walked to the boy, slowly, hands visible, the way you approach a weld you're inspecting, and crouched down just close enough to read the tag on Biscuit's collar. The boy turned the collar without being asked. The tag read, "Biscuit," and underneath, a phone number with a 423 area code. East Tennessee. He dialed. 3 rings. A woman's voice, older, cautious the way older women answer numbers they don't recognize. "Hello?" "Ma'am, my name is Russ Dillard. I'm with the Cumberland Forge Motorcycle Club out of Morristown. I'm sitting under the Clinch River Bridge on Route 25E with a boy and a dog named Biscuit, and the boy asked me to call the number on Biscuit's collar." Silence. Then the sound of a woman's breath catching, the sharp intake that happens when something you've been afraid of and hoping for arrives at the same time. "Is he okay? Is Caleb okay?" "He's okay. He's cold and he's been out here since last night, but he's talking and the dog's with him." "Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord." Her voice was shaking. "His mama's boyfriend, that man, he told me he sent Caleb to a camp, a behavior camp. He said Caleb had behavior problems and they'd sent him away. I called the school and the school said he hadn't been there in 2 weeks. I called the police. I called twice, and they said it was a family matter because his mama—" She stopped. "His mama won't answer my calls. That man answers her phone. He tells me to mind my business." "Ma'am, what's your name?" "Doris. Doris Embry." "Doris, Caleb is safe. I'm not leaving him. I need you to tell me what you want me to do. I'm sending my son. My son lives in Rogersville. He can be there in 40 minutes. His name is Dale. Dale Embry. He drives a red Chevy truck. He'll have his ID. Please don't let anyone take Caleb before Dale gets there. Nobody's taking him anywhere. I'll be right here." Russ texted the Cumberland Forge group chat. "Clinch River Bridge, 25E, south of Bean Station. Kid under the bridge, been out all night. Dog with him. Domestic situation. Family's sending someone, but I need brothers here before that. Need DSS and probably law. GPS pin." Anvil responded first. Chapter President, retired Hamblin County Code Enforcement Officer, 12 minutes. Then Forge from Morristown. Then Cleat, then Dowell, then Rig. 5 riders spread across the county, all heading for a bridge. Russ sat on his rock. Caleb sat against his pylon. Biscuit sat between them, her head on Caleb's thigh, her eyes on Russ, her tail doing a slow metronome against the mud. The river moved. The traffic thumped overhead. The sky stayed aluminum. "What's his name?" Caleb asked. "Who?" "You. What's your name?" Russ. People call me Ironside. Because of the motorcycle? Because I fell off a roof in 2009 and landed on my right side and broke 4 ribs, and my collarbone, and my buddy at the hospital said I must have an iron side to survive it. It's stuck. Caleb almost smiled. That's a dumb way to get a name. Most biker names are. You should hear how Anvil got his. How? He dropped one on his foot, broke 3 toes. Now he's Anvil. Caleb smiled. Small, brief, the muscles around his mouth remembering what they were supposed to do. Biscuit's tail sped up. Anvil's soft tail pulled down the access road 11 minutes later. Then Forge on his Dyna. Then Cleat and Dowell together. 4 bikes parked in the gravel flat, 4 large bearded men in black leather vests standing in the November cold under a bridge, hands in pockets, breath-making clouds, watching the access road with the casual alertness of men who were used to waiting for things that mattered. If Asphalt Angels has become part of your week, consider joining the channel membership. Just a couple bucks a month keeps these stories coming. Links below, and hit that hype button if you haven't already. Now, back to the story. Dale Embry's red Chevy came down the access road 38 minutes later. He parked behind the bikes. He got out, a man in his mid-40s, stocky, wearing a Carhartt jacket and work boots, the kind of man who looks like the part of East Tennessee that still works with its hands. He had his driver's license out before Russ could ask. I'm Dale, Doris's son, Caleb's uncle. Caleb stood up. Biscuit stood up with him. The trash bag stayed on the ground. Uncle Dale? Hey buddy, Grandma sent me. You ready to go? Caleb didn't move. He looked at Dale. He looked at Biscuit. He looked at Russ. Can Biscuit come? Biscuit's coming. Biscuit's always coming. Grandma's already got a bowl out. Caleb walked to Dale. Not fast. The measured walk of a child who'd been burned by adults and was testing the temperature of this one. He got within arm's reach and stopped. Dale didn't grab him. He crouched down and opened his arms and waited, the same way Russ had waited on the rock, the same way the blanket had sat on the concrete in Another Story on Another Day. He waited for the boy to come the last step on his own. Caleb closed the distance. He leaned into Dale's chest, the way a structure leans into a brace. Slowly, then all at once. The full weight transferring in a single moment. Dale's arms closed around him, and the dog pressed herself against both their legs, and Dale stood up with Caleb still attached, lifting him off the ground, the boy's face buried in the Carhartt jacket, his arms locked around his uncle's neck. Dale held him there. Standing in the mud under a bridge in November, 4 motorcycles idling in the gravel behind him, the river moving past, the sky the color of cold metal. He held him, and Caleb didn't make a sound. The boy had spent 1 night under a bridge, 2 weeks without school, and God knows how long in a house where a man controlled the phones and told his grandmother lies and made a child afraid to call the one number that could save him. And now he was being held by the collar of a Carhartt jacket in the arms of an uncle who'd driven 38 minutes on a phone call from his mother and hadn't asked a single question before he opened his arms. Biscuit sat at their feet. Her tail was going full speed. She looked at Russ. Russ looked at her. He reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a piece of beef jerky he'd been carrying since Morristown and held it out, and Biscuit took it gently. The polite, soft mouth of a dog who'd been raised by a grandmother who believed in manners. Dale walked Caleb to the truck. Caleb got in the passenger seat. Dale put the trash bag in the truck bed. Biscuit jumped in after it, then changed her mind and jumped back out and stood in the mud and looked at Russ and tilted her head the way dogs tilt their heads when they're trying to understand something that doesn't have a scent. Dale came back. He stood in front of Russ. He didn't speak for a moment. His jaw was tight. His eyes were wet. My mother called me screaming. She's in a wheelchair. She can't drive. She's been calling the police for 2 weeks, and nobody—" He stopped, swallowed. "Nobody did anything. They said it was a custody matter. His mama's boyfriend told everyone he was at a camp. He wasn't at a camp. No, he was under a bridge with a dog and a garbage bag." Dale looked at the 4 bikers standing behind Russ. He looked at the vests, the patches, the tattooed forearms, and the breath-making clouds in the cold air, and the motorcycles ticking as they cooled. "Thank you. I don't know what else to say." "You don't have to say anything else. Go get him warm. We'll handle the rest." Dale nodded. He walked to his truck. He got in. The red Chevy pulled up the access road and turned east toward Rogersville, and Caleb's face was visible in the passenger window, looking back at the bridge, and his hand came up and he waved once. Small, brief, the wave of a boy who hadn't waved at anyone in 2 weeks. Russ waved back. Anvil waved. Forge, Cleat, Dowell. They all waved. 5 large bearded men in leather vests standing under a bridge in the cold, waving at a red Chevy disappearing up a dirt road. The Hamblin County Sheriff served a warrant on the residents that evening. Caleb's mother, Jenna Embry, was inside. The boyfriend, Marcus Wayne Doss, 39, was arrested on charges of child abuse, false imprisonment, and custodial interference. Jenna was transported to a shelter. She'd been isolated for 3 months, phone taken, car keys taken, family contact cut off. Doss had told Doris that Caleb was at a behavioral camp. He'd unenrolled Caleb from school using a forged withdrawal form. He'd kept Caleb in the house for 2 weeks before Caleb had waited for Doss to leave for work, packed a trash bag, clipped Biscuit's leash, and walked out the door. He'd walked 5 miles through the hills above the Clinch River, through woods and cattle fields, and along county roads with no sidewalks, carrying a trash bag in one hand and a leash in the other. He'd crossed 2 barbed wire fences, one by lifting Biscuit over and then climbing after her, one by crawling under while Biscuit went through. He'd walked along the edge of Route 25E for the last 1.5 miles, staying on the gravel shoulder, stepping into the ditch when headlights came, because headlights meant adults, and adults meant questions, and questions meant Todd might find out. He'd found the bridge before dark. He'd crawled under it with Biscuit and slept against the pylon with the dog on his chest and the trash bag as a pillow, and the river sounds drowning out the sounds that his brain kept replaying. In the morning, he'd woken up cold. Biscuit had licked his face. He'd opened the trash bag and put on a second shirt, another flannel, another men's medium, over the first one. He'd sat against the pylon and waited. He didn't know what he was waiting for. He just knew that under the bridge was better than in the house, and that Biscuit's collar still had the number, and that eventually someone would come. Doris Embry has custody now. She's 71, in a wheelchair, and she told the judge she'd raise Caleb from the chair if she had to. Caleb lives with her in a house in Church Hill that has a fenced backyard and a dog door and a landline telephone on the kitchen wall that Caleb can use whenever he wants to call anyone he wants. Biscuit sleeps on his bed. The collar still has Doris's number on it. Caleb asked her not to change it. "It worked," he said. "Don't fix what works." The Cumberland Forge MC of Morristown, Tennessee, now sponsors a program called Collar Tag. In partnership with local animal shelters and veterinary clinics across Hamblin, Granger, and Hawkins counties, they provide free pet tag engraving for families, with the option to include a trusted contact's phone number, not just the owner's. The tags go on collars, and the collars go on animals that sleep in the same beds as the children who need them. The idea is simple. If a child can't carry a phone, maybe the dog can carry a number. At the annual Cumberland Forge charity ride, Caleb Embry stands behind a table with a hand-crank tag engraving machine and stamps numbers into metal discs and clips them to collars, and he tells every person who brings a pet, put someone safe on the tag, not just your number, someone you trust, because you might not always be the one who can answer. Caleb Embry is 9 now. He's in 3rd grade in Church Hill. He walks Biscuit every afternoon on a sidewalk that his grandmother can see from the front window. He carries a phone, a flip phone, nothing fancy, with 3 numbers saved: Grandma, Uncle Dale, and Ironside. He's never called Ironside. He doesn't need to. But he told his grandma once, "I just like knowing it's there, like the number on the collar. You don't always have to call it, you just have to know it works." Russ keeps the beef jerky stocked in his vest pocket. Every ride, every Thursday, every crossing of the Clinch River Bridge. He looks down at the pylon every time, the gravel flat, the mud, the spot where a boy sat with a dog and a trash bag and waited for someone to cross the bridge at the right moment and look down. Be the one who looks down. Thank you for watching this story. If it reminded you that a phone number on a dog tag can be the only door a child has left, please share it. Subscribe to Asphalt Angels for more stories, proving that sometimes the person who saves you isn't the one with a badge. It's the one with a vest and a piece of beef jerky. Tell us in the comments, what's the one number you'd put on the collar?